This is actually gonna be a series of episodes because I don't want to make 1 hour long episodes, alright? No one would watch that.
The sound test room.
Hello and welcome to the Sound Test Room. My name is Jakob. I'm your host and you're watching a FigureAddiction episode. In this episode I'm gonna show you a process of making a track using a digital audio workstation, DAW for short. And in this episode I'm using Cubasis, but you could just use Beatmaker, Aria or Multitrack DAW. It's all about what you want, what you like, and the way you like to work, what you want to achieve. So you choose. You can use anything, and in this episode we're using Cubasis. I've got a track I'm working on right now. It's called Rapidly Approaching Mass. So let's have a listen to this first. I think it sounds absolutely gorgeous, delicious in so many ways. This is actually gonna be a series of episodes because I don't want to make 1 hour long episodes, alright? No one would watch that. So this is part 1. The first thing I do when I start something like this, building a full length track, look inside the browsing here and you can see that I have multiple save files called RAM. And RAM is short for Rapidly Approaching Mass. These are the different sounds that I want to use from my song. As you know, Figure only have 3 parts: drums, bass, and lead. And let's say I want to use 6 sounds or 8 sounds or 7 sounds. This is why I'm using a DAW and actually recording sounds from Figure and putting them in Cubasis and arranging them. So the first thing I do, I name them with the project name, and then I put the name there, ARP, and that stands for arpeggio, and that's the way I work. Make that a part of your workflow and the rest of the work will go much easier. The next thing I do is, you see in the previous episode where I'm using Figure and Loopy, we're exporting sounds from Figure into Loopy. That is perfect when you're using Loopy because Figure actually cuts off perfect bar-to-bar loops, bar-sized loops. And that's perfect for Loopy because you want seamless bar looping. But when you're working with a DAW, you need to keep some of the reverb tails and the delay tails at the end of the sounds, and that's when you need to record them. Then I would urge you to use a setup like I'm doing right now to record all of the sounds that are happening in this episode. I've got Audio Bus loaded right here. So I put Figure in the input slot, and then I have an option of putting an effect right here in the effect slot. So if I want some reverb there, I might just push in AUFX space or even AUFX dub in this slot and then record the whole thing into Audio Share. So I go into Audio Share and I press record. I go back to Figure. I choose one of my saved sounds here. And as you can see, I've muted the drums and the bass. The bass, the drums and the bass is muted. And I've got the, I'm really sorry, I've got the ARP right there. So all I need to do now is play it whilst Audio Share is recording. And I press stop when I want to press stop, and usually at the end before it starts again. This is the RAM, the full RAM ARP that I've recorded using this process. Just loading up Figure into Audio Bus and then recording the sounds into Audio Share, the full length. Pressing stop inside Figure, going into Audio Share and using the trim fade to crop the file. Let's just turn it like that. Now we can just send this sound to Cubasis by pressing this button here. This is the opening command, and if you're having any other DAW that you're using, you'll find it in the list here if it supports open in. Press Cubasis and it goes to Cubasis, and Cubasis tells us, it doesn't always, but it tells us that a new file has been added. We go to Media, Projects, and I'm gonna start a new one. New, and just call it F. Just like that. Go back to audio, my audio files, go down and find RAM ARP like that. Pull it in like that. Now we have the ARP file into Cubasis, but we also need to make sure that the BPM is correct. And we know it's 97, so up here you can change the BPM. Just like that. And the next thing we have to do is to trim off the beginning here. So you zoom in by putting 2 fingers down like that, and then pulling apart to zoom in and pulling together to zoom out. Moving with 1 finger like this. And before we do anything, I'm going to turn off the quantization grid because I want the fineness adjustment. Right now it's set to bar, and when I pull this, it's going to adjust 2 bars. So if I turn that off, I now have a finer control. And actually hitting those small boxes can be hard sometimes. Now we can move this, and I'm gonna do one more thing. It might sometimes the sounds get a bit sharp, you know, at the beginning when you trim it like this. So the box up here, the small white box above, is the fade box. So I'm gonna tap that and pull it. You can see that I'm fading right now. I give it as little fade as possible just to make the sound not pop or click. And then we're gonna zoom out and pull it back like that. So the beginning is fixed. And now I'm gonna set it to bar again. And I'm gonna press here to get the play marker up. And then I'm gonna add another audio file. This is the difference with working with a DAW. In Loopy, everything goes round and round and round with bars. But here we actually have a forward playing motion. So it plays from beginning to end and it just keeps going. So that's why we want the tail right here. And what you're gonna have to do now is, if you would do it like this, just shorten it down to a perfect bar loop and then just taking that, copying it and pasting it, it would be no more different than what you're doing in Loopy. You're just making a bar-sized loop and then just putting them after one another, so you get a cut-off sound that loops. But with a DAW, you can use multitracks, and that's what you do in DAWs. I'm gonna choose that file, pull that tail out, do the same thing here. So now when we play it from here to here, well, let's take it from there to here, we're gonna get a seamless sound. Now, there is a problem with this configuration. If I make a few changes to, and let's pull this out here, this, and choose this track. Let's turn off the mixer, go into the insert effects, and these are effects and stuff that you put on that channel specifically. And if you want effects or stuff that you want to be able to use on all channels, then you use a send effect. But when you're using insert effects, you're using it specifically for that channel. So let's turn on the equalizer and do a little bit of change here. I'm gonna just remove some bass. And then I'm gonna close that window. Now when we go to the next channel, you can see that the equalizer isn't on. So I'm gonna have to do the exact same thing here. That is a nuisance sometimes. But I've found myself changing my workflow so I don't have to do this, to actually stop from having to do this all the time. What you should do in this, or what you could do, I'm gonna erase this. I'll just use one track and one file. I'll make all the changes that I like in an equalizer, and when I'm really happy with it, I then bounce it by exporting that file. And that way, everything that I've done with the equalizer will be glued onto there. So I get a new audio file that I can use, and then I can take that file and put it on 2 channels. And the only thing I have to worry about is volume mixing and balance between left and right. So I don't have to give a damn about compressors or equalizers or anything else that I might have put on the first channel. I don't have to duplicate anything when I export it. And let's say I've done a few changes here. Then I go to media because I want to export this. I make sure I solo this out, and then I have to make sure that Cubasis knows what to export. So up to there. And I want to export that. So I make sure that this area is chosen with this. Go to media, go to mixdown, go up here and create mixdown. Now the first thing you want to do is untick include effect tail, because you're going to make sure that you have enough tail. And then range between locators, and then press so you have wave chosen. Just start and it will create a wave file with the project name. I urge you to change the name of that wave file, otherwise you're gonna have like F1, F2, F3 and you're not gonna know what you're doing. So change the name to the project name you're working with, and then the sound. You basically just do that by pressing the edit button there. It's the E. It's always an E in Steinberg's Cubase apps. And then you can just pull that into your project. I can actually just delete that one. And now I have the new file with the equalizer on it and everything. Now I can make another audio file, an audio track, sorry. Paste it and put it there. And now I would have a seamless going sound with the same settings on it. So that's a good practice. That's all I'm going to explain for this episode. In the next one, I'm going to explain a bit about equalizing and mixing and stuff like that. So we're going to keep on working with this track. I'm just going to leave you with the project that I've been working on so far. So we're going to go to not mixdown, but projects and rapidly approaching mass. And I'm going to play the arrangement I've done here. Also, don't forget to join up on the Figure Addicted group on Facebook. Remember to share your stuff on Propellerhead's Discover service. As usual, Doug Woods, Colin Sweeney, and me, Jakob, at soundtestroom.com wishes you a very productive weekend. Now go finger your surfaces and make some tracks, and don't forget to share them.